Hello and welcome to Top Story. The Arab-Israeli peace process is a hair's breadth from failure, according to Amr Mussa, the Secretary General of the Arab League. Speaking on Tuesday, he said the recent decision of the Israeli government to approve the construction of 750 new homes at Givat Ze'ev on the West Bank sent a strong signal that Israel didn't want peace. It was also criticized by US State Department spokesman Sean McCormack, who described the Israeli plan as not helpful to the peace process, and by French President Nicolas Sarkozy. He told Israeli President Shimon Peres, who's on a state visit to Paris, that Israel's security depended on stopping the settlements. Under the so-called roadmap for peace, Israel undertook to freeze settlement activity in the occupied territories and remove the so-called settlement outposts. Israel says the decision to build the homes at Givat Ze'ev predates the Olmert government. But Palestinian negotiators say it is a deliberate attempt to humiliate Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Well, joining us on the phone to discuss the decision is Caroline Monget, a writer and journalist who has just returned from Israel and has written a book on life in Gaza. Caroline Monget, thank you very much for being on Top Story. The Secretary General of the Arab League, Amr Mussa, says the decision to build these houses on the West Bank is a strong signal that Israel doesn't want peace. Is that the way you read it?
It could be a way. I mean, if you consider the Palestinian side, the thing is that now Ehud Olmert is in a very difficult position because he has a lot of pressure from the settlers movement who have been hit by the last attack on Thursday night, and I think, I mean, all the analysts in Israel consider it's a kind of compensation he's giving to the settlers movement.
Israel does seem, on the surface at least, to be in blatant violation of its commitments under the roadmap to freeze settlement activities. Is that fair? Right,
they are, because this settlement is not part of Jerusalem. I think it's 7 or 8 kilometers from it. And on Thursday, the General Fraser from America was supposed to get there and to check if they were fulfilling the roadmap conditions, which is for Israel to stop their implantations and for the Palestinians to stop attacks on Israel. So no one is fulfilling it at this point.
Again, on the surface of things, this looks rather as though it's a decision by the Israeli government to appease the hardliners in the coalition government following the attack on the seminary in Jerusalem last week, in which 8 Israeli religious students were killed.
It is, absolutely. I mean, these settlers are really very upset. Several ministers tried to get to the seminary since the attack, and they were received by people shouting at them, criminals, and hard accusation, and even Ehud Olmert has to renounce to go there to give his condolences to them. So he had to do something, and he allowed the buildings of 750 new apartments in settlements called Givat Ze'ev, which is very away from Jerusalem. So he gave his green line to this project on Saturday.
But does this mean effectively that the Olmert government is hostage to the hardliners?
It was not, in fact, because after Gaza withdrawal, they were promising, I mean, at the time of Gaza withdrawal, they were promising hard resistance, and there wasn't. So they were looking weaker than they used to be. And but with this attack, I mean, they get back on the scene, and they're on the front line, and they say that now this attack was a symbol that there is no chance for peace, which is what they have always said and defend as an idea, because they don't want to give anything back to Palestinians. And so they are now on the news, and they are expressing themselves, and they put a high pressure. And don't forget that these people have killed also Yitzhak Rabin some years ago. So he's just afraid that they will go back for revenge.
Now, The Israeli President Shimon Peres is in Paris this week, and Nicolas Sarkozy, the French president, said to him, as a friend, I'm telling you that the best way to security for Israel is to end the settlements. Is that a message, do you think, that most Israelis are beginning to accept now, or is it still, should we say, a minority view?
I don't know, because the people in Israel were very shocked by the Thursday attack, because first of all it comes from a Palestinian Israeli resident, and it's scary for them. The second, the brutality was very, very of the attack was very shocking for them. It's a new way of doing it, and they are not optimistic anyway because of the situation in Gaza, the Hamas, and everything. So, plus the experience of the left, the Labour Party in the government with Peretz during the Lebanon war was not so positive. So it's not an easy situation now in Israel for the people.
Now, the senior Palestinian negotiator in the peace talks, Syed Erekat, asked what the Israelis thought they were achieving with the Palestinians on this. He was saying that all it does is humiliate Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas, makes it difficult for him to sell the peace process to the Palestinians when people can see that they're not achieving very much. It's a valid argument, isn't it?
It is, and the thing is that if you analyze the situation, you can see that Olmert and Abbas in the same way are caught by their extreme, and after Gaza, Abbas couldn't stand his position on the peace process because it was so brutal with so many civilians injured or dead and killed that he had to stand by the Hamas. So really, it's a parallel, and it's not. It won't help the peace to be done.
It is interesting, though, that way back in 2000, just before the Camp David settlement was agreed, that Syed Erekat, speaking precisely about this settlement, said it was one of two that the Palestinians might be prepared to accept that Israel should keep.
Yes, they are prepared to some of them, but they are not prepared to have an extension in this tense situation now. And but there are still hopes and talks behind the veil. I mean, they are not speaking openly at this time after the attack on the Israeli side and in Gaza.
Okay, I'm sorry, Caroline Manger, we're going to have to stop you there. We've run out of time. Thanks very much for being with us on Top Story. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of the programme. Goodbye for now.